YouTube, Ozick going the Goat House is back with more cap fixes for NFL teams for this offseason. Taking a look at the cap space situation right now and what we can get it to by making cuts, what players we can't cut, how much those cuts save. We're doing this for each team. We're going division by division. This is actually the second video of the series. We did the AFC East earlier today. Now we're on to the NFC East in this video. And you guys can actually vote who we do next on Twitter. But again, we'll go through every single team. So excited about this. We got all kinds of free agency, NFL draft, just offseason in general videos on the channel, more than anybody out there. And we have a lot more coming in a full coverage on our Twitter. So make sure you follow that, subscribe, smash the like button. Check out that sided app as you see one underneath me. You can win Amazon gift cards by talking football. We have a page on there. Link in the description and comments for anything here that you need. It's always down there. So check that out. There's the Twitter. You guys are currently voting on which divisions we should do tomorrow for this video. So today's the first day. We did the AFC and NFC East, North, South, what North's winning right now. So a lot of North fans out there. But yeah, this is this is early on in the poll. So make sure you go vote there for that. But I'll also put a link in, down in the comments for this website that we're using for this. It's very helpful. So check it out. But there's a lot to go over here for these. We'll start with the Dallas Cowboys. So as we sit, something to keep in mind here, I'm going to say this in every video, the cap number for each team, the cap space for each team is going to go down what it normally is because of the COVID situation, the lack of ticket sales, of course. Now, what that number is going to be is kind of the question, but we have a ballpark estimate. I think this is worst case scenario. So it actually could be higher than this. It could be $5 million, maybe higher than this for each team. So think of this as the worst case scenario as we sit before we make these moves that we're about to make. So $10 million is where the Cowboys are sitting at. And we'll see if there's any cuts they can make. That's the tough part. And the first one, the hot topic probably, is Zeke. He was very underwhelming. People hate his contract. Could they just cut Zeke? And no, as you see that, you can't, because that's negative $10.8 million, and that'll put them in the negative total cap. So you can't really do that, and no one's going to trade for him. So that's pretty tough. But he's only 26. He's still got something left in the tank there, obviously. But some cuts they can make here. Anthony Brown, they probably can move. I think they got to revamp that corner unit. Maybe minus Trevon Diggs. Obviously, I like him. Anthony Brown could save a little bit of money, $2.7 million. But there's not too many guys. Some of these linebackers were underwhelming, but Jalen Smith, Leighton Van Der Esch, but they're not going to cut these guys. But yeah, you kind of go down. Connor Williams a little disappointing, but he's 24 years old. You keep him for a rotation. Tristan Hill's been extremely disappointing, but 23 years old. Darian Thompson's a guy they can move on from. You don't save a whole bunch. There's again the DBs. Maybe they move on from, try to revamp that. But yeah, you can add a little bit here, but these guys just don't have. And again, they'll probably cut some of these guys, some practice squad guys. It won't save much, but so expect that. So you can add a little bit to the cap space. But looking at the big names, it's just Tyron Smith keeps getting injured, but it's a tough guy to cut. Let's see what happens anyways. I mean, is it worth it? It's just not worth it at all, because it's a stud. It's a top-tier tackle if he's healthy, but sometimes teams make that tough decision. You got to re-sign Dak. So, you could re-sign Dak and kind of shift some of the money back so you could afford him this year and you don't go into the negative. But there might not be, a lot of room after that, as you can see here. So that's kind of the tough thing with the Cowboys, So, and another thing, too, you can restructure contracts. Guys can take pay cuts. You can create kind of void dummy years at the end of contracts, and we can go over this in every video as well, how that works. But if you pull up somebody's contract, if it'll load, Demarcus Lawrence, we can pull up his contract in a second here. But, what teams can do is shift money back towards where we're, created extra years, and it's kind of hard to predict. It'll happen, but it's very hard to predict. So you see Demarcus Lawrence, 2021, he has $17 million base salary. The cap hit is $25 million. So you kind of can shift money back here, and he's already got that. So that's a perfect example. They're paying him, they're paying him that $3 million. So he already did a restructure. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. See, 2024, he's a free agent in 2024, but they're paying him in 2024 because they shifted money back. So they kind of can add on top of this 2024 year, or they can create a 2025 year and pay that. Either way, he will still be a free agent in 2024. So that's kind of what happens when teams are still paying guys when they're not on their team. But it's to shift money back, so you can't like put everything back there, obviously. So you kind of can clear some more space now. So players have to agree to it. So that's kind of the tough part to predict. It's near impossible to predict who will agree to those things. You kind of got to know a little bit more about their person, about their character, I guess. So those things will happen. So think of the $15 million as kind of, if they make these cuts, kind of the worst case scenario there. So not a whole lot the Cowboys can do, and they got to re-sign Dak. So at least they can re-sign Dak, right? So it's not the worst situation, but you wish it could be better. They'll have to build to the draft. I like the way they drafted last year, so hopefully they do a good job again. Move on to the New York Giants, negative 13.8. That's not pretty right there. Again, that's kind of worst case scenario, but the very max, we can add $10 million. That's the very max, $10 million onto that. So they'll be at -3 to start. So that's why I say negative 13 is the best worst case scenario. So this is kind of ballpark, but I don't think they're going to raise it by 10 by that projected 175. It could be like 180, so maybe $5 million towards that. But you look at the Giants, first one, Nate Solder. Can they cut him? That saves $6 million. He's really not part of their future, perhaps, so that can save a bit for them. Zeitler, there was talks about them trading him during the deadline. They couldn't really get that. What happens if you cut him? $12 million. That's a lot, but he's a pretty good guard. I think they get worse if they move on from him. So I don't know if I really see that. But $12 million, maybe they have to. Big Leonard Williams, guy's a stud, who they traded for a couple years ago, is a free agent. So they want to be able to pay Leonard Williams long term because he's a big piece of their team. So Golden Tate, could they cut him? They could save $6 million. Yeah, actually, that's something that probably could happen there. And you look down the list, I think they would keep a lot of these guys. Logan Ryan played well for them, a little bit of a different role. You had -11, so they can't do that anyway. So this is a good learning experience. Evan Ingram, he's got one more year. They'll probably, obviously, they'll hang on to him. Some other cuts that won't save a whole bunch. $2.9 million. That's actually decent here. Some other cuts they can make down here. But yeah, and again, I'll say this for every team. Teams will make some of these cuts that'll save a little bit of money. It just take us hours to kind of go through those. So, it's kind of worst case after making these cuts is 1 point, whatever million there. What if they move on from Zeitler? 13. That's a lot. It's a lot more money there. So that's kind of, maybe that's best case of what they have, but I don't know if it's really best case. So they're kind of in a tough spot. Again, they want to re-sign Leonard Williams. Again, they can restructure some contracts, create some dummy years at the end of contracts. We just went over Demarcus Lawrence. He already has one. Teams can do something similar to that. Bad scenario, bad situation the Giants are in, actually, for a team that, sometimes it's okay if you're in that situation. If you're a really good team, it kind of makes sense. But so it's not really the best situation, but here's a worse one. This will make the Giants fans feel a little better. Negative $61.6 million for the Eagles. And that's kind of worst case, but we're not going to make $61 million disappear, not even close. So, there's some of these contracts they gave out too. I'm not really a fan of the contracts they gave out. Look at Lane Johnson, might have one of the strangest contracts. There's a lot of void years, so they push the money back. So they push a lot of money back, but they're still paying him a lot of money here, and he's a really good tackle. But yeah, there's something in his contract, if I'm not mistaken. 26 to 28 years automatically void. This is the year I was talking. If 2021 option bonus is exercised and the players on the roster, so 26 to 28, and this really has nothing to do with this year, but it's just weird contract. 20. So these 26 through 28, they're gone if he's on. So they're going to be gone probably, but that was kind of an odd way, that was a really odd contract. So what if something weird happened? Now he's got injury situations, so they. What if they didn't want him on the roster? I mean, they're going to want him, but I don't know. It's a lot of money. Having void years usually means there's little money here, but looking at it, it's easier for me to read over here for some reason, so that's why I'm looking over here, my other monitor. There's more money here. There's the 18 and 21, but it's, I guess, down here, 11 million, but it's a weird contract. There's a lot of these from the Eagles. They were not good at dishing out contracts. They were kind of in the business of not making it a business. They were in the business of paying guys too much for winning a Super Bowl, which it's a business, and you got to keep it that way. So not happy with how they handled things. And there's not too many ways to clear space here. And they got a lot of guys with injury concern. We talked about Zach Ertz could be traded. We talked about that in a recent video. Let's trade him. Let's get rid of him here. They're not just going to cut him. 4.7 is not a lot of money, so is it even worth it? That's kind of the question. Deshaun Jackson's going to be gone. That saves $5.1 million. Now here's the Alshon Jeffrey, right? People think, yeah, they're going to cut him, right? Negative 3.9. So we're talking about with the odd layouts of contracts, dead money in the years you would like to cut him. It's not smart at all. So you can't really cut him. And then Malik Jackson, another one, a guy that has injury concern, not really what he used to be when he was on the Broncos at some point in his career. Cut him. Negative, it's about $8 million. So that's interesting. And people are saying, sometimes you can trade guys and it's not negative. Let's see, you ship him off. It's that same number. So these contract layouts are pretty. Same thing goes for Alshon, and no one's going to trade for him anyways. So Marquise Goodwin, we're going to have to reset this too because I traded Malik Jackson, and that ended up being negative. So I'll reset that. Pretty simple stuff. Cool website. We traded Zach Ertz, though. Let's keep that trade in place. Where was it? Deshaun Jackson. Get rid of Deshaun Jackson. So we can't trade or cut Malik Jackson. Goodwin. Save $4.5 million. All right, so there's some ways you can make cuts here. There's some ways. These guys just don't have much of a. You're not saving much at all. We're starting to get into some mid-round rookies down here. Barnett's been a little underwhelming. I still like him. I don't think they cut him, but if they absolutely have to, $10 million. Maybe it's a guy they look to trade because he's got one more year left on the deal. So perhaps it's a guy they trade because I like Josh Sweat a lot. Sweat's a beast. Brandon Graham's is such a key piece to them still. Maybe they look to trade him. I just don't see it there. So they're at negative. Maybe they look to kind of go to the future, and it just doesn't save much at all there. So it's just not worth it unless you're getting a big time pick. You're not really going to get a big time pick. McLeod, it wasn't bad when he was in. Negative anyways. I just don't know what. Roseman built a pretty deep team when they won the Super Bowl. It's a big reason why they won. They had rotation. They had depth. I guess he's good at restructuring, getting guys to restructure deals, but man, some of these layouts are just so terrible. It's just bad. So that interesting stuff. So yeah, they're in a terrible situation. And again, they'll get guys to restructure. They'll create more dummy years. They'll keep creating that, and they'll clear more space. Will they be able to clear 46 more million? Probably not. It's probably going to be a very, very, very quiet offseason for the Philadelphia Eagles, unfortunately, because that's a team that needs to get better now while the NFC East is up for grabs. But Dak's coming back. Washington's getting better. The Giants' defense getting a lot better. Pretty tough. Washington, they got 21.26. That's about worst-case scenario, like I've been saying. And this is a great situation. We got to make it a business. You got to make a business decision here. Alex Smith, unfortunately, you have to say goodbye there. $13.6 million, and that puts you in a pretty situation there, for this year. So that's already a lot of money, especially compared to most of the other leagues, especially with the cap space number going down. A lot of people in the negative. Who else? They don't really have too many other guys. They still like Bostic, but that's a guy where they want to get younger there at linebacker to kind of pair with their youth on the defensive line, but not really worth it to me. Cornelius Lucas was kind of filling in, okay for them. It's only saves one. It's not really worth it. Morgan Moses, I think, played both sides for them. Can save $7 million to him, but that's just really not worth to get rid of him. I think he's not great, but he's a key piece of their offensive line. Yeah, they don't have too many guys who they want to keep Antonio Gibson, McKissick, and Peyton Barber. They most definitely can, but maybe they want to move on from Barber to save. Is that worth it? That's kind of the question you got to ask yourself. A lot of these guys, it's basically, Can Bryce Love, stay healthy? Do they want to cut him because of that? It's probably not even worth another one of those situations. So they don't have really any, Alex Smith's a great way to save some cap, but they don't have too many ways, but it's not bad. It's not bad because they have a lot of cap space and they have more way, one way, but a big way to create some with Alex Smith. Again, they can create restructure years for players so they can clear. So $34 million, I'd imagine they cut Alex Smith. So 34.8, we'll call it 35 million is probably worst case scenario here for the Washington football team. So that's great, especially looking at the rest of the division. They're winning the NFC East in terms of the offseason already because you got that, which, hey, we got into the positive, and then you got that, but they got to re-sign. Yeah, they got to re-sign Dak, so we're gonna make it go up, but then we'll go right back down for the right reason. They'll re-sign Dak, and the same thing goes to the Giants. Gonna make it go up a little bit here, sign Leonard Williams, which is a good thing, but it's gonna go back down. So some of these teams aren't going to be able to make a whole bunch of moves, new additions, which I say every team needs to get better in the offseason. Some teams out here staying the same. Technically, the Cowboys get better because they didn't have Dak last year, for the most part, obviously. But, yeah, Washington has the ability to go out and get better because they're young, developing talent and get more players in what is now an appealing spot that Ron Rivera built there. So Washington football team looking very good. Looking compared to the rest of the NFC East, they're looking insanely good. So that's the good thing there. So this is only the second video of the series. We did the AFC East, so this is the NFC East, obviously, and we're going to keep going on day by day. You guys vote who will be next, so 2 a day, 8 total videos because there is 8 divisions in the NFL. You're going to want to follow that Twitter to vote and keep up to date with all that news coming out. That's the big thing about the Twitter. When that news comes out, we talk about it, and if somebody's cut, we talk about how much money exactly that's saved, what that means for that team, where that player can go, things like that. So we have you covered there with instant reactions on the Twitter. Follow that, subscribe to this channel, smash that like button, turn notifications on, all that be much appreciated. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.